name is Mathangi Subramanian.
Okay.
I'm an adjunct professor, and I teach on Monday nights. I teach TV and the development of youth. I grew up a bunch of places, but I ended up going to high school in Maryland, outside of D.C. But New York, I've lived in New York for 8 years, and that's actually the longest I've ever lived anywhere, so I guess I'm more of a New Yorker than anything else. I went to undergrad at Brown, and then I got my doctorate here in this department, actually. And Lalitha and Ellen were my advisors. When I was an undergrad, I was supposed to be a doctor. But then my senior year, I completely panicked and realized that I really didn't want to go to medical school. And I saw a flyer for Teach for America. So I ended up applying for Teach for America and then became a public school teacher and really, really loved teaching. So I taught on the border of Mexico for 2 years and then moved here to New York City. And I taught here in a public school, and I helped found a high school here. And then during my 3rd year of teaching, I kind of decided that I wanted to create more change than I could in a classroom. And I'd always really liked writing, and I had always really liked kind of, I was always kind of a creative person, and so the media and education program here, the communications and education program here really looked appealing to me because it seemed like a great way to think about education more broadly. So it wasn't just a classroom, it was like using a TV show to reach a lot of children. So I applied to the master's and I got in. And then while I was doing my master's, Lalitha was like, well, why don't you get your doctorate? And so that's kind of how I ended up in the field and ended up getting a doctorate. I can't say enough nice things about Ellen Meyer and Lalitha Vasudevan, who were my advisors. I mean, they were just amazing supports. Like, I still email them, I still keep in touch with them, and always interested in doing something that would change the world. I mean, my family is full of kind of radical progressive people. My grandmother was, she was one of the first female doctors in her state in India, and she did a lot of community organizing and started a bunch of early childhood education programs. And then that's on my mom's side. Then my dad's side, my grandfather was really active in the Indian independence movement. My parents were always really politically active. And I guess education appealed to me because, first of all, it seemed like a great way to create change. And also because, you know, I'm the child of immigrants, my parents are from India. And for us, education was kind of the way, like, it was part of the American dream, right? Like, my dad was really poor growing up, and we were always told, you know, if you get your education, you'll be okay. And I just saw that a lot of children didn't have the opportunities that I had. I went to a great school in the suburbs, and I really saw how education changed my life, so that's how I got interested in it. I always wanted to be a writer. I always loved writing. And I think that kind of writing, creative aspect is actually really important in teaching because you have to be a little bit of a performer. And same when you're using media and technology. After I completed undergrad, I was a teacher for 3 years. And then even while I was here, I was working part-time and full-time at some points. Like when I was doing my field work in writing, I was actually full-time at Sesame Workshop, which is the company that produces Sesame Street. And then I had a number of other part-time jobs while I was here. But I think one thing that's really exciting to me about being an adjunct is I always loved teaching, and I've always taught somehow. Like after I left the public schools, I taught at a community center. I'm a senior policy analyst at the City Council of New York, so we're an oversight agency that helps set education policy in the city and also has oversight over the Department of Education. And one of the big issues that comes up over and over again in my work is teacher evaluation and teacher preparation. So I feel like being here and actually talking to students who are in schools and who are doing their master's in education and getting evaluated has been really, really helpful to me in my job because not many of my colleagues get to talk to the people that they affect with their policies. So just on a personal level, that was really cool. I think the other thing that has been great about teaching here is I've just made some really great connections with, there's some amazing students here. I'm still in touch with most of the students from my summer class. I really like the students I'm teaching now, and I anticipate that we'll, stay in touch. I actually work for a politician, so I work for the speaker, Christine Quinn, and I've been there for a year, and I actually really like my job because it's sort of like I told you I started teaching 10 years ago. It was my first job in the public schools. And I just remember every day looking around and being like, I wish I could change this, I wish I could change this, I wish I could change this. And council doesn't set education policy the way the Department of Education does, but I still have a lot of oversight and a lot of power to actually change some of the stuff that I didn't like when I was a teacher, which was really cool. And I'm working on some really great stuff with my office, and I really like, the speaker who I work with, and I get to do such a variety of stuff too, and everything I learned at Teachers College has been really useful there too. Because and I think one of the great things about getting an EDD as opposed to like a PhD in the humanities is that everything you do is, well, if you set your schedule right, the courses you take are so practical and they're so informative about just being in the classroom and real stuff that happens. So I feel like the stuff I learned here is very applicable. I would say my field is immigration and education. Okay. So I'm actually I'm editing a volume on immigration and education and policy. Mm-hmm. My dissertation research was on South Asian American immigrants. I should say that my interest also, gender and feminism is a huge interest of mine. So that's what my dissertation was focused on. That's what my chapter in the volume is focused on. And I think going forward, I think that's going to continue to be my interest. I'm also really getting more interested in teacher preparation. And I've done a lot of work in early childhood, so I tend to, I would love to do some research in that field as well. I mean, I've done a lot of research in that field for other people. Like in my old job, I would I did a lot of early childhood research just testing some of the Sesame shows, but, early childhood education is this thing that's often taught by women of color, and so it's often not taken seriously, and yet fundamentally, like, getting an early childhood education is the most important thing you can do to help kids succeed. So, if I quit my job and got a huge grant and got to go research whatever I wanted, I think that's probably what I would do. I'm on the board of a nonprofit called the South Asian Women's Creative Collective, and we do a lot of programming. So our mission is to help support South Asian female artists. So like last year I curated a literary festival. I do fundraising for them. We do events throughout the year. I curated a couple of events last year. My events are like basically all about politics and so that's an interest of mine. I also write. So I've had some children's stories come out in magazines. I have one actually coming out I think in the next month in Skipping Stones magazine.